The Bible reads, "And there was a man of Mount Ephraim whose name was Micah. And he said unto his mother, The 1100 shekels of silver that were taken from thee, about which thou cursest, and spakest of also in mine ears, behold, the silver is with me. I took it. And his mother said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my son. And when he had restored the 1100 shekels of silver to his mother said, I had wholly dedicated the silver unto the Lord from my hand for my son to make a graven image and a molten image. Now therefore I will restore it unto thee. Yet he restored the money unto his mother, and his mother took 200 shekels of silver and gave them to the founder, who made thereof a graven image and a molten image, and they were in the house of Micah. And the man Micah had an house of gods, and made an ephod and teraphim, and consecrated one of his sons, who became his priest. In those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes. And there was a young man out of Bethlehem, Judah, of the family of Judah, who was a Levite, and he sojourned there. And the man departed out of the city of Bethlehem, Judah, to sojourn where he could find a place. And he came to Mount Ephraim, to the house of Micah, as he journeyed. And Micah said unto him, Whence comest thou? And he said unto him, I am a Levite of Bethlehem, Judah, and I go to sojourn where I may find a place. And Micah said unto him, Dwell with me, and be unto me a father and a priest. And I will give thee 10 shekels of silver by the year, and a suit of apparel, and thy victuals. So the Levite went in. And the Levite was content to dwell with the man, and the young man was unto him as one of his sons. And Micah consecrated the Levite, and the young man became his priest, and was in the house of Micah. Then said Micah, Now know I that the Lord will do me good, seeing I have a Levite to my priest. Brother TJ, you pray for our service tonight, please.
Father, thank you for today. Thank you for bringing us all here together safely. Thank you for all of you for the word. Really thank you for the Holy Spirit.
Now we're in Judges chapter 17, and we're just coming off of Judges chapter 16, where we read about Samson, the great judge of Israel. And, he judged Israel for about 20 years, but he didn't really have a great time of serving God. There's a lot of negative things. There's a lot of violence taking place during his time. And then there's a lot of violence. We haven't gotten there yet in chapter 18 of Judges. A lot of violence going on there. But in chapter 17, between 16 and 18, there's not much violence going on. It's seemingly this peaceful chapter here. It's the shortest chapter in the book of Judges. But there's a lot of things we can learn. It's an interesting chapter, even though it's a gentle chapter, even though it's a kind of almost like a random story out of nowhere. It's still, there are a lot of lessons that we can learn in here, and it's interesting. I really think we ought to look at verse number 6. Okay, usually we would start at verse number 1, but let's start at verse number 6, because this is the reason that we have this chapter in here, to kind of coming off of the tale of Samson the judge. We have this. Look at verse number 6. It says, In those days there was no king in Israel, but every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. So every single man, every single person, they had their own idea about what was right and what was wrong, which is wrong, okay? That is a bad idea. That is a corrupt way of thinking. And we can see here a lot of the weird things that are taking place in this chapter are really due to the fact that there was no king in the land, and every man did what they thought was right in their own eyes. No king, meaning there's no earthly authority, okay? We have to have authority. We know that there's established authority in the church, but there's established authority in our households. We have authority everywhere. I mean, no manager can go and command a CEO of a company to do things. It's the other way around. The CEO commands the manager, and then there's an under manager, and then there's people below them. There's always authority everywhere you go, and when that authority structure is maintained properly, the business or that organization is successful. Flip over to Deuteronomy chapter 17. Deuteronomy chapter 17. There were no rules right? There were no rules in the land. There was no established leader. There's no, and it's unfortunate that the last leader was of the Israelites was Samson. Okay, but there was no king in that land. There was no, established. Okay, this is the guy. And even over the past 350 years, there were judges, right? There were judges bringing people back to the Lord, pointing unto God, judging the people. They ruled over the people in some instances. But after Samson, there was no king. There was no ruler. There was no authority there to where different people, like we see in this chapter, Micah, they just make up their own rules on how they ought to live. Now, if you look at verse number 18 in Deuteronomy chapter 17, Moses taught about what a king ought to do, how a king ought to rule. If you look at verse 18, it says, "And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of the law in a book, out of that which is before the priests, the Levites. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear the Lord his God, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandment to the right hand or to the left, to the end that he may prolong his days